I've went through absolute hell doing something that should be very, very simple. I got the bad luck. I drank some fucking bad luck juice or something this year, put in all my bad luck for the rest of my life. Hello and welcome back to my stupid little life. As I have not yet mentioned on the channel, but as most people in my life know, I am currently in the process of moving from Calgary to Vancouver. Within Canada as one country should be a simple process. It's not. Our healthcare might be universal, but each province runs it by itself, so there's that as a hassle. You know, there's trying to do your driver's license and all your other shenanigans and stuff. Big issue for me, I'm actually currently on the wait list in Alberta for a surgery that I want to get. The wait list just for the consultation is 2 years. 2 years just to wait to talk to the specialist, and I am 1 year in. And when I switch to BC Health, I'm gonna lose all of that because of these issues. I haven't fully immigrated to BC yet. Now, ran into some issues. Alberta to BC, apparently there's a little more weirdness, okay? I had been waiting, obviously, to switch my car and my car insurance and everything over here because in order to prove residency here, you need to switch your healthcare card, which, you know, once I'm immigrating here, I do have to do. I just need to make sure I'm not losing my place for the surgery. So that's a whole thing. The app is Turo, by the way. It's apparently the biggest car sharing thing in the world or something. Lots of people use it. T-U-R-O. It turns out that if I was in any other province with any other provincial plate, yes, you can just sign up for it. If I moved to Ontario with my Alberta plate, sure, list your car. It's fine. Not in BC. BC's insurance is provincially run. It's run by ICBC. And that is the only thing that runs car insurance in BC. There are independent brokers, but they all sell the insurance of ICBC. Right? So I went through all of the fucking steps to get signed up for this goddamn app. I spent 2.5 hours with a friend of mine cleaning my car with a fucking fine-tooth comb so I could take beautiful photos of it out in the sunlight, as they say to do. My car looks very clean right now, at least. And got an email back the next day like, hey, we noticed you got a Alberta plate there and you're trying to list this in BC. Can't do that. They're like, if this is a mistake and you have a BC plate, please let us know. I'm like, no, I haven't immigrated to BC yet. I'm an Alberta resident, but I'm living here for work. I need to make some extra income. What can we do? But I already knew that by the way they worded that email, I wasn't going to be able to list. So they got back to me and they're like, yeah, BC doesn't allow that. I don't want to waste my time and go into an insurance broker if I'm not sure about what my next steps are. So I'm like, I need to find some phone number to call. ICBC does have an online quote generator. It only works if you already have a BC auto plan. So why would you need a new quote if you already have ICBC insurance? So it's useless if you don't have that. You're just getting insurance. It's useless. I managed to find a number for an ICBC. So I call this head office. Found out you have 2 options. Number 1, you are immigrating to BC. You're switching your driver's license over, in which case they can pull your driving history from your other province, and that will count towards your insurance. Your insurance will be cheaper. So that's the normal option, right? Number 2, if you are not switching your ID over to BC, you can actually still go get your car registered and insured here, and you will just be insured as a new driver. You won't get to claim any of your driving history, and it's going to be quite a bit more expensive. Just so you know, when you Google car insurance in Vancouver, maybe other places too, you will get every insurance broker whether or not they offer car insurance. So before you just go into one, try to check on their website what they offer, because they don't answer their fucking phones, okay? They don't answer their phones. Not a single insurance broker that I called answered their phone. Like, just go down to the BCAA. It's nearby. Talk to an insurance agent there. Here's where things get messy. So I tell them what I'm looking for, you know, like I haven't switched my ID over to BC. I'm interested in seeing how much it would be under the new driver idea of like not switching it over and just registering and insuring the car. And he's like, oh, it's quite a bit more. I'm like, okay, well, do you know about how much more? And he said, it'll be about $1,000 more per year. Huge difference, right? And I'm like, okay, well, can we do the quote just so I know what that is? Because I already pay a lot in Alberta. I paid $4,000 a year. Now that's important to know because last year I paid $3,000 a year to have like full comprehensive coverage on a car that's still on payments. It's a Volvo, it's an expensive car. Okay, yeah, my insurance is expensive. But my insurance went up at this renewal by $1,000 a year when I had 0 claims. I did not get in any accidents. I had nothing happen that I claimed, except a vandalism thing, which they can't raise your insurance for. And I'd asked them about that. I'm like, is this because of the vandalism? And they're like, no, that has nothing to do with it. They're like, oh, we just changed our system. That's not what happened. The Alberta government removed the insurance premium cap laws and rejiggered a bunch of stuff and deregulated the insurance industry. So I'm one of the lucky people that got absolutely fucked because of this. And they told me, I'm with Allstate Insurance, by the way, in Alberta, that next year at my renewal, it's going to be going up even higher because I'm going to be undercharged when I have a clean driving record. So, yeah. Ridiculous. So I'm like, even if it's $1,000 more as a new driver, it might still be about what I'm paying now. Let's find out. Now, here's where it gets complicated, like I said, because he'd already asked me some questions and he's like, okay, well, do you have your BC Health? I'm like, no, I still have Alberta Health. And then he kind of stopped. And he was like, well, you need to like double check some of those things. You might need your BC Health to do this. And I'm like, if I'm not immigrating here, I don't need to though, right? If you are bringing a vehicle into BC and you are not moving here, you have to pay tax on the vehicle you're bringing into BC. There is something people didn't know. If you are a BC resident and you buy a vehicle out of province and bring it here, you have to pay 12% upon registration, not at tax time, not later. You have to pay that upfront upon registration. In my situation where you're coming here for work for a year and you're like, okay, I need to switch over to BC insurance and stuff and then decide if I'm immigrating here later, you can't do that. That would be considered importing the car and having to pay tax on it. I, with my used car that's like 4 years old now, would be still looking at like a $4,000 upfront bill on registration. I'm like, I can't afford that. So you have to get your BC ID, then you have to immigrate here. And if you're doing that, you might have to switch your healthcare over. So please go and double check that before you decide to go forward with anything. I have already made about 10 phone calls this day and I have visited 3 locations. I'm exhausted, I'm annoyed, this has started with bad news, like it's not been a good situation. So I'm so frustrated. And I'm like, okay, well, where do I go to get a driver's license? He's like, oh, you have to go to one of the ICBC driver licensing centers, but don't do that. He's like, call the Consumer Taxation Programs branch. You have to call them and verify your tax resident status in BC with the steps you're looking to take to make sure that you qualify as a tax resident to get the exemption on this like sales import tax for cars. Isn't the exemption just like moving here? So like changing my ID and the fact that I have a lease here will be that. He said, you should call and double check. I'm just like, I'm a couple hours into this at this point. I'm frustrated. So my thought when I'm leaving is just like, I'm just gonna go to the driver licensing center. But as I'm walking away, I'm like, no, call the stupid place to make sure. So I Googled this. Luckily, I remembered what he told me it was called because it's kind of hard to find. So I did find it. It is under the BC Government Directory website. You can find the Consumer Taxation Programs branch, as well as a service number. I'm like, try to call this service number. Luckily, that is the right number to call. It's 1-877-388-4440. If you need to get a hold of the Consumer Taxation Programs branch ever to learn about tax stuff as a BC consumer. You know what? I will also put the number for that ICBC head office in the description because it took me multiple calls to different places to find that as well. So I call them. Now the agent I talk to, I tell her what's going on and I'm confused. I don't know what this is about. I'm moving here from Alberta, bringing my car. I don't know why I have to call you guys, but I'm just trying to verify there's like an import charge I have to pay. She informs me that because I am moving specifically from Alberta to BC, I do not qualify for the exemption to this sales tax. Doesn't matter whether I'm immigrating here or not. I have to pay 12%. I can't afford that. What normal person can afford that? Can afford to just throw a couple grand down willy-nilly for no reason? And she explains to me that this whole tax is based on PST. Well, she calls it sales tax, but it's PST is what we call it. Because Alberta does not charge us PST. We do not pay PST in Alberta. We pay a 5% GST, and that's it. Versus in BC, where they pay their GST and their PST as well. So this is to prevent people from going to somewhere like Alberta and buying big ticket items like cars and bringing them back in and avoiding the amount of tax, which is a huge amount of money, But there's supposed to be an exemption if you're actually moving here. Well, apparently, because Alberta doesn't have PST, like, you can't claim that exemption. You can claim it if you're coming from another province because you prove that you already paid your PST when you purchased the vehicle. She said, because you don't have that in Alberta, you don't get the exemption. I didn't know what to do. So I just had a full mental breakdown, like complete and total mental breakdown at this point, because I do not know what to do. I cannot afford this. Called a friend of mine and talked for quite a while to calm down because it was in a very, 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 very bad mental place. We tried to problem solve it together, but there's no way to dodge taxes. Do you know what I mean? And I did find the tax chart on the ICBC website, which made this more confusing, because if you bought your car for under $55,000, which I did, and it was a personal sale, you pay 12%. If it was a sale from a registered GST company, you only pay 7%. I bought it from a dealership, I should only pay 7%. But on top of this chart, in the information on top, it says that this is generally calculated not on the current market value of your car, but on the value at purchase, on how much you paid for it. My car is worth just over half of what I paid for it now. That's a massive difference. Is it 12% or 7%? Is it on the current value or the value when I paid for it? This doesn't make sense. So I'm like, okay, I have to call this office back and figure out which of these two percentages it is. So I call back. Get a different agent. This has been like an hour later because I've had a complete mental breakdown, like blubbering, crying. New agent. I tell her the situation. I'm like, look, I'm just trying to figure out how much I'm gonna have to owe here because I don't know, maybe I'll be able to borrow it from somebody. I don't know what to do. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, the tax I have to pay because I'm moving to BC from Alberta for my car. She's like, you don't have to pay that. Excuse me? Excuse me? She's like, no, you're exempt. You're actually moving here and you're moving your car and you bought it. When did you buy it? I'm like, oh, like 3-ish years ago. She's like, yeah, you're exempt. Are you sure though? Like, are you sure? Cause I can't have more bad surprises, man. I can't. She's like, oh, I don't know what this other agent was trying to tell you. They must have been confused or reading the information for if the car was a gift, because no, like, people move here all the time. We don't charge them for moving here. You can move here and bring your car. That's what the exemption's for. And I'm like, yeah, she told me it was specifically because I'm from Alberta and we don't have PST. And this lady's like, no, that's nonsense. That's nonsense. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're from Alberta or wherever the fuck, you don't have to pay. Well, she didn't swear, obviously. I have a potty mouth. And I'm like, I've had enough bad luck in the past while. Are you sure? Like, okay, that's nice. Just in case you're wrong and I have to pay it, how much is it gonna be? Because it's this 12 or 7% thing. It's very confusing. So it is 12% on the current market value of your car. But I bought it from a dealership because she specifically said that 7% is if you're buying it from somewhere like a dealership. I'm like, I did. She's like, no, so when you immigrate from Alberta to BC and you move your car, you are considered selling your car from yourself in Alberta to yourself in BC. Therefore, it is considered a personal sale from you to you. So it is 12%. It's when you're moving, it's on the current market value. So that's that taken care of. I can go get an estimate now. So I go back to the insurance place and he can only give me the estimate based on being a new driver because I don't have a BC ID yet, based on my car and me not changing my ID to BC and him already having told me it would be about $1,000 less. I'm like, okay, we can kind of figure this out. $5,000 a year. That's a lot. What? He's like, yeah, based on your age, like, and how long you've been driving, if we can get your driving history, I actually expect this to drop by about 2,000, not 1,000. Oh, okay, well that would be good, except if you have any claims against you, like anything on your record. So he's like, do you have any at-fault acts? I believe I do. I believe I have one from 3 years ago, but I wasn't 100% sure if I was found at fault because there was a weird construction thing going on. So I felt like I was at fault for it. And I've always assumed I was found at fault for it. So he's like, oh, well, if you do, this is probably only going to go down by about 1,000. I'm like, well, that sucks. So he tells me to call the ICBC driving center rather than going in to get my license switched over, which is a great idea, by the way. If you're doing it, just call them. Call the ICBC drivers center thing. Call one of their locations because they can make you an appointment. And this was around 2 p.m. or so, and the guy was able to make me an appointment for like 3:30 or 4-ish. Awesome. The reason he told me to call was actually not so that I could make an appointment. It was because I needed to double check if they can even access my Alberta driving history, because Alberta is very behind the other provinces, okay? They still use like old systems, and up until very, very recently, they did not share information. You needed to go back to Alberta and go into a registry to get a physical copy of your driver's abstract to bring with you to a new province, or get somebody to do it for you. So I called, and the guy informed me, so here's how it works. They do now share information. If you have had your Alberta driver's license for more than a few years, I've had mine for 14-ish years, or 15 years, that was no problem. If the legal name on your driver's license, full name, matches the legal name on your birth certificate, and you have another ID like a passport with your full legal name as well, then they can access your history. If your birth certificate has a different name, if you've changed your name at all, marriage, anything like that, if it has a different name, they cannot access it. Important to know, because he wanted me to bring my birth certificate in, and I'm like, I don't know where that is. Good luck finding out. I don't know. Might be in my storage locker in Calgary. He's like, oh, if you have a valid passport and it's the same name, you're good. Perfect. So that's what I brought. Went to my appointment. People were waiting there. The place closed about an hour after my appointment, I believe, and people were in there doing walk-ins in the line, and they weren't allowing them to sign up as a walk-in at that point. So I'm thinking the wait, if you were to do a walk-in, was between 1 and 2 hours. I was in and out in like 15-20 minutes, like fully complete, got my new BC license in about 15-20 minutes. So yeah, it was super fast. Highly recommend getting an appointment. Excellent. Okay, and in the meantime, a friend of mine here in Vancouver had recommended me to his insurance agent, because I've been complaining to him via text. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm dealing with all of this shit. It's crazy. I don't know what to do. And he's like, this sounds so complicated. So he'd actually called his insurance agent just to like discuss my situation and be like, my friend is going through this and it sounds nonsensy. What's going on? And his agent had been like, if she's moving here, she doesn't have to pay that tax. That's nonsense. Like, no. So he recommended me that person. So I was like, okay, I'm going to call them for the quote. Very thankful I did, because they have been extremely knowledgeable, much more so than everybody else. I called them for the quote after I got home. I had my BC driver's license officially for about 30 minutes, and he was already able to find me in the system. Also, when my driver's abstract came in from Alberta, it's 100% clear. So this accident that I've been thinking I was found at fault for 3 years, apparently I was not. So that's awesome. Unless it's on my insurance history, which again didn't come up because he was actually able to do me a proper quote. He had access to my driving history within 30 minutes, which is pretty fucking cool. And yeah, my insurance is only going to be $2,300 a year, compared to $4,000, 60%, because my insurance is currently just under $4,000, and this would be like 23 something. It's literally almost exactly 60% of what I've been paying in Alberta. And since my Alberta insurance already told me it's going up next year, like guaranteed 100% it's going up no matter what, that's gonna be like, I will be paying less than half of what I would be paying in Alberta for insurance for my vehicle. So that is something for people who are thinking of moving here and might be worried about the cost to keep in mind. There are things that are a lot cheaper here. There are things that are more expensive, like the rent and tax. Gas, sure, but I don't actually drive my car as much here, so that saves me on the gas. Insurance and food are incredibly cheaper here. So awesome. Got that booked in today. Got that sorted out. Literally going to pick up my car right after this, and then good to get insured and registered and all of my bullshit tomorrow. And then hopefully I can start making money off of my car. There's my story. It's a long one. There was so many things that happened. It was terrible, okay? I know a lot of people have been asking me like, how is living in Vancouver? And I'm like, I don't know. I've been so stressed out since I moved here. I have so much going on. I started a new career. Everything's crazy. I haven't had the time to enjoy it or relax at all yet. I've just been living in this like super high stress state for months. It's not great. It's not great. But I will actually do like an update video on moving here and stuff and like talk about living in Vancouver once I calm the fuck down. But I thought this was like super useful information maybe for people to know like the situation you can go through, what I went through. Sure, I am definitely in the unlucky group, but it can happen and you might as well actually be armed with some of the information. If you are moving a car with you from Alberta to BC, here's a bunch of bullshit for you. Anyway, I'm gonna go get my car. That's it, that's the update. Very long, very ranty. Bye everybody. Stay safe, have fun, go have an adventure. Please have a good, fun adventure and not the kind of adventure I just had that's traumatizing and terrible and terrifying. And yeah, okay, like bye.